Hello, dear viewer or viewers. I'm back again with another Dream Entry ASMR. Okay, so I'm doing a few more of my dreams again, and just gonna try and pick up where I left off last time on my dream journal here. So I was reading the last several ones that I did. I was reading other people's dreams off of Reddit, and I had fun doing that because it was just something different than just sharing my dreams. And it was nice hearing other people's dreams and experiences that they had in their dreams and stuff. And I will get back to that again. I just have to build up a backlog. Because when I did it last time, I just went on Reddit and I tried to get a few here and there until I had enough to make another dream entry comp. And that's usually what I try to do is I'll read several dreams and then if I have enough to do a compilation video, then I will upload that as well. And I apologize about the frequency of my videos. Just haven't been very consistent lately, and work is partly I've been busy with work, so that's been part of the reason, and just life stuff, a lot of things going on lately, and a lot of stuff like that. But we'll try and get back at it at a more consistent pace. I know it's been kind of hard lately for me to get back, and especially I'd like to do more ASMR videos too, more like traditional ASMR videos, where I sit down and I do triggers and stuff like that, and I promise I'll get back to those. Like I'm not negating those, I'm not putting them off. I will get back to them. It's just I have to find the time to. But I will get back to those. But in the meantime, I'm going to read some more dream entries from my journal here. Augmented World, written circa 2016. I'm walking through a street. I notice a car driving by itself. It stops and parks near me. Nobody is driving, it seems. And suddenly, I find myself in ancient ruins. I walk up a set of old and cracked steps. As I reach the top, I can't quite make out what I see. It looks like a morphing, 8-legged mechanical vehicle. I notice a few people sitting in what looks like a cockpit or a cab. I end up climbing one of the legs as it morphs and spins radically. I get in the cab and notice one of the guys talking to me. He says, "Ride the beast, dude. The Elephantania." It awaits our response. And suddenly, I I'm walking down a random street. It's dark out now. I see all kinds of random and strange things popping in and out of reality. There's an elephant riding a bike, and mice walking crickets. There's a couple of black cats. One of them stands on his hind legs and grabs the other's back legs and wheelbarrows it past me. I end up at a house, seeing all kinds of lights and things that look like fireflies. And the dream ends. So it's a short one to start off with, but like I said, and even other people's dreams that I had written, they're varying lengths. So it depends on the person's ability to recall most, some elements of a dream and stuff, and how vivid and how detailed a dream can be. So yeah, that was a dream entry from my journal, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Hello, dear viewers. I'm back again with another Dream Entry ASMR. I don't know the title of this one, but I'll go ahead and I'll read it because it seems interesting. I'm in a room with a few people. I seem to be hooked up to something, living a virtual reality. I wake up and unhook myself. I proceed to wake the others up. I tell them that we're dreaming and that we can go and do whatever we want. I say we can even go to Mars. Realities flip in and out. We're in several different places at once, experiencing different memories. Then the planet Mars comes closer and closer as we're being teleported there. Suddenly we're in space. Several different planets are out in the foreground. Space and time seem to warp in on themselves, almost like a dice. And there's a massive starship-looking spaceship as I look above me. Below, only empty void, along with thousands of stars. As I look behind me, there's a strange-looking starship that seems to disappear behind an invisible wall, almost as if being pulled out of existence. Then a sun illuminates everything around, making everything disappear into an empty white void. And that's the end of that dream. So, I forgot to summarize my last dream. But I did make a song about that one. So I don't know if I'll add it or not. But it's just interesting just looking back on both these dreams. The one about the augmented world and about that robotic like spider like thing. And it's funny because like I said in previous videos, how dreams tend to morph and shift. And both these dreams, these exact things happen. It's like the reality around the dreams shifts and morphs. And it's like one thing can become another thing. And then my the one I just read about the starship. And one thing that was interesting that about the whole like Matrix thing, waking up from the Matrix and stuff. Just an interesting point to bring up. It's almost like that dream Inception, or I mean that movie Inception. I guess you could call it a dream if you wanted to, but that movie Inception, where they're in a big dream. Everyone's dreaming in this vivid hallucination or dream, and eventually they wake up in the end. Almost like being lost inside of a crazy alternate universe. I often wonder sometimes if life itself is a very vivid dream, or if we're actually living inside some kind of like simulation. And like the whole like simulation theory and stuff like that is just fascinating, because it's like yes, it's a theory and everything, and it's a very fascinating one. But where are the signs? And it's interesting because if it actually is a simulation we're living in, wouldn't there be glitches in the Matrix, as it were? It's a very fascinating point to point out. And like doing psychedelics, like, is that a way to see through it? Is that the glitch? Is that the proverbial fruit that lets you see through, and kind of like a glitch, you know, maybe or maybe I'm just thinking too much into it, and you know, but like, it's interesting to think about, because the psilocin that comes, or the psilocybin that comes from mushrooms, or psilocybin mushrooms, turns into chemically psilocin when it goes through our bodies and is digested. And the chemical compound psilocin is very similar to serotonin, and it fits in our serotonin receptors almost perfectly. And it can't just be a coincidence. And that's what's fascinating about psychedelics, is that even LSD does this similar thing too, where the chemical compound lysergic acid is very similar to serotonin in a way that psilocin is. And it's like the two compounds are almost perfect for mind-altering experiences. And the effects that psychedelics have on the mind, it's almost as if we're supposed to experience it. Like, we were created to experience the psychological shift that psychedelics can give a person or an individual. And I know that if you're not into it, that's fine. I don't judge anybody who's not into things. If they're not comfortable with it, that's fine. But if you are, then I can definitely share your sentiment, because it's an experience. Like it's definitely an experience, and it's something that will change you for the rest of your life. My first experience on mushrooms, I tripped. I took a little over 3 grams, and I tripped at my parents' house. I didn't tell anybody about it. I probably should have, but I wanted to just do it on my own and just experience it. And I was in a pretty dark place. This was not long after my accident, and that I probably shouldn't have done it because of that, but I did it anyway because I just wanted to escape reality for a bit. I wanted to escape the living hell I was living in at the time, and I just wanted to find some beauty in the world, or beauty in another world. And the mushrooms were good to me that day, and I'm so glad they were, because they gave me some insight on the constructs behind our reality. And maybe I'll tell you more about my trip. Maybe I'll tell a trip story and my first experience, because that's actually a good idea for a video. But yeah. Anyways, I've dragged this video out long enough, but I appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. If you're a long-time subscriber, I know I try not to say subscribe to my channel, and I don't want to say that because that just seems way too direct. It seems like I'm trying to force people, and I don't want to do that. If people enjoy my videos, that's great, and I love that. But I do sometimes I'll say like the videos, just because it helps me in the algorithm a bit, and that's pretty much all I'll say. I don't try to drive home the whole thing of, people leaving my channel and being upset about it, because this whole YouTube thing has been an experience. And experiencing what I've experienced lately on YouTube has just been wonderful. And I'm grateful for the subscribers I still have on my channel. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's kind of gone on long enough, and it's given me a few ideas for my trip videos, which I might upload to make a backlog of stuff to try and upload at a more consistent rate. But I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Hello, dear viewer or viewers. Welcome back to another Dream Entry ASMR. Okay, so this one doesn't have a title either. But this one was written right around the time of my accident, not long after it actually. And it's one of the first dreams related to my current situation at the time. Kind of a personal dream. I kind of would consider it a nightmare of sorts. But anyways, this one was written circa 2020. All I can remember from this dream was that I was sitting in my room, and suddenly I found myself outside at night. I kept walking. Okay, you'll have to excuse me, because this is when I started learning how to write with my right hand, so it looks messy, and please excuse me for trying to decipher this. I kept walking past what looked like big arms and legs. They seemed like they were a part of me. Because I got this feeling that I was connected to them in some way. I distinctly remember hearing my mom crying out to me. She sounded like she was distressed at one point, but I didn't want her to find me. I was for some reason unsettled and anxious. And when she did find me, she had this look of horror on her face. This terrified expression on her face as she ran towards me, screaming and frantic. And the dream ended. So this dream freaked me out as possibly one of the worst nightmares I've ever had. And I'll have these every once in a while. They'll be kind of like flashbacks to the accident. And sometimes they'll scare me awake at night. And this was one of those dreams where I was missing parts of myself, and I was almost like a broken machine in a way, and I was like almost like a mangled mess. And just the whole like feeling of the dream was very dark, and it was just very it's just hard to describe. There's not really much more I can add to it, though. Like I said, the one thing that freaked me out about the dream the most was my mom screaming and crying, and so yeah. But anyways, yeah, not really much I can say about that one. Just kind of one of those nightmares. Like I said, subtle horror can take on many forms in one's life. And this was definitely one of them. I'll see you in the next video. Hello, dear viewer reviewers. Welcome back to another Dream Entry ASMR. So this one is a little bit lighter of a dream compared to my last one. This one is titled The Cartoon Cafe, written circa 2020. It was nighttime. Or at least I think it was. She looked up at me as if broken by her trance. She said she was sorry. She asked me how I got the wounds. I told her they were from an accident. She asked me if I was in pain. I told her yes, but more mentally anymore. She looked at me smiling, said I'll see you later, hopefully, and then got up and walked back into what seemed like a dark hallway in the back of the restaurant. I sat puzzled and confused for what seemed like hours. And then it finally clicked that she wanted me to follow her. I went in the same direction she took, but the hallway ended in a dead end. She was nowhere in sight. I never saw her come back out either. I lay my back against the wall. I felt a slight budge, as if part of the wall gave way. Curious, I pushed through a doorway, almost as if getting sucked into a portal. I found myself back in the cafe, but something was different. The place seemed brighter, more vibrant. The contrast to this place was opposite of the dark and gloomy cafe. Everything here seemed more cartoony. Even the patrons there weren't exactly people, rather characters from cartoon worlds. this person doesn't exist in my world. And I realize that I know that dreams are a figment of one's imagination, and that dreams are a part of the process of getting rid of old information, so they can be distorted and they can be misinterpreted. But I feel like they can be more than that. Because why else? I mean, I understand the process, like the whole scientific process of the mind getting rid of old information, and that's how dreams come about. Dreams are a part of that process, and that's what results in full detailed lucid dreams or hallucinations at night while you're sleeping. But what's fascinating about the whole dreaming process, even about sleep itself, is that when one goes to sleep, the body goes into a state of paralysis. And the scientific term for that is so that one doesn't act out their dreams. Because obviously it'd be dangerous. You'd be getting up in the middle of the night, and who knows? And there are people that sleepwalk. Like, there's no phenomenon of people who sleepwalk and they actually do injure themselves, or they'll go out and they'll harm to themselves or somebody else. But those are rare cases. And like 90% of the time, the person is their body puts them into a state of paralysis during the dream, during the time in which they sleep. Even in deeper states of sleep, all throughout the whole entire sleep period until they wake up, they're in that state of paralysis. And that also explains sleep paralysis itself. When one wakes up in the middle of a dream, but their body doesn't wake up. And so they're awake, but they're not really awake. Their body is still asleep, but their mind's awake. And so you're still getting auditory and even, some hallucinations while you're awake in your room, but you can't move. And I've had those kind of dreams plenty of times in my life. But there's also different states of sleep where you sleep and you don't dream, and it's kind of like the deepest states of sleep, or the deeper states of sleep, like the dreamless sleep and stuff, where you're completely unconscious. But the dreams happen in REM state, or REM state, rapid eye movement. And it's basically your mind goes into this state, and this is when you experience dreams. And your mind is going through the process of getting rid of old information around this time. And your body's also healing, and your body's doing all kinds of stuff when you're asleep, and you don't realize it. That's what fascinates me about the whole sleep thing in general, and about how important it actually is. But it's just, it feels like there's more that's going on than just that. It feels like, and this is why dreams have had such an impact on religion and spirituality, is that there are synchronicities in dreams. And sometimes they can even coalesce into real life and something you've seen in it. And I've had this experience, and it's tripped me out many times, where I've dreamed something in a dream, and that exact thing comes out in my real life or waking life. And or a certain situation will happen in a dream and it'll happen in real life. And it'll just freak me out because I'm just like, that's not supposed to happen. Um, what's going on here? And so it makes you think there has to be more to it. Like, there has to be more going on than what meets the eye, more going on than what we realize as human beings. Something that we can't comprehend. We can't even begin to comprehend. And we'll probably never know, even with all the scientific exploration that we could do in this subject matter. It's probably never going to be something that can be solved or comprehended. And it's most likely linked to the whole like birth and death cycle of humanity. And I'll talk more about this because this is a dream entry. This is not. I keep doing this. I'm going off on tangents in these, and I'm going off, and this is giving me ideas for videos, which is cool. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video. Hello, dear viewer or viewers. Welcome back to another Dream Entry ASMR. Okay, so this one is titled In Between Dimensions, written circa September of 2021. So this is getting into later dreams now. And this one I actually do remember, and I'll give you more of a summary when I'm done reading it, but it's one that's kind of based off of psychedelics. But anyways, to the entry. I had dreamt of living an alternate life. But at the same time, I knew these people. They seemed as familiar as my family members in this life. However, I knew they looked and seemed like different people. In this dream, we all ate, slept, and played together like family. Families usually. Me in this dream, or the guy that was me, eventually got together with a girlfriend. Everything seemed normal at first, almost like watching a movie. But somewhere in the dream, the guy I was in the dream began to have mental problems. I would see things, but I would see myself in the third person. My girlfriend and I, in the dream, moved to another city. There was where I started losing my mind. I ended up going into this full-blown hallucination where I found myself in this other world. It's hard to describe that place, but the best way I can describe it is that almost seemed fluid or alive. Particles of light all bouncing around. Then I saw these beings, or alien-like humanoid figures. They seemed to have the same particles of light popping in and out of existence in and around their bodies. They had long, lanky bodies, hands, arms and legs, and elongated heads. Their faces seemed to have this ancient look about them, as if they had been around for a very long time. Must have awakened from that place at some point, but I was taken to a psychiatric hospital for being crazy. I saw in the dream that my girlfriend had drugged me with this alien looking powder substance. The dream soon ended. And so that's another one. That's one where psychedelic substance played a part in the plot of the dream. And the fascinating part of the dream, obviously, is the part where the guy, or me, the guy I am in the dream goes crazy and starts hallucinating these beings he sees, or that I see in this alternate reality or universe, or whatever you want to call it, dimension. And I drew a picture of this because I was just intrigued by these beings. And this wasn't long after my mushroom trip, and I'm kind of wondering if some of these correlate to that. But it was just fascinating because I still remember them. Even today, I still remember their faces. I still remember the way their bodies were structured. It was like they were alien beings, but they were talking to me telepathically in this alternate dimension that was made of light and stuff. And I can't recall what it was exactly, but it was like I got a mix of, they didn't like speak in words. They spoke in emotions. And it's interesting because when my initial emotions were shock and awe and like just amazement at these beings I was beholding at the moment, and it was like they were reflecting it back onto me as if I was the one who was amazing, or like awe-inspiring to them. And it was like we were having this conversation, telepathic conversation that was made up of emotions. And it was like that. It was like, it happened like that. And like I said in the dream, I woke up like almost instantly. But it felt like I was there for a very long time. It felt like I was there a lot longer than a minute or two. And in dream time, that's like maybe a second, maybe less. So it's trippy to think about that this happened in a dream, but it was like a parallel life to mine. And it was like some guy that went crazy and saw these beings, but I was also seeing them because it was my dream, as part I was experiencing the dream the same time this guy was experiencing this crazy experience in his life. And I'm seeing these beings with my own eyes in the dream. And it's almost as if I was peering into another dimension through a dream. And this is why dreams are so fascinating to me, because some dreams will just grip you, and they will just make you rethink your entire existence. Like, they will make you think for a very long time. And that's why I wanted to write down my dreams, because they're just There's just something about the synchronicities alone in dreams, and there's so many other things, like the one I just talked about, where I literally met beings from another dimension. And I don't know if that place actually exists, but who knows? It could very well be a real dimension. Like, it could actually be a real place. These could actually be real beings that could not be talked to any other way except through a dream. And I just find it fascinating. I don't know. Call me a spiritualist, call me a crazy woohoo kind of guy, but I'm also a realist, you know. Like I'm a logical thinker. I like to work with my hands. I like to think logically. I like to analytically go through things in a scientific manner and try to disprove things. But also, there are things that make me question our reality. And no matter how much scientific analysis I can go through them, or no matter how much I can try and question these things, it's not going to hold a candle to the experience itself. Like, it's not going to explain anything. And it's like I'll come up with more questions than answers. It's like trying to solve the puzzle piece of our universe. There's more questions than answers. When astronomers look out into space and they see galaxies that are older than 14 billion years old, that's when the fabric of what we knew before breaks. And it's like, what else is out there? It's like, if the universe is older than we think it is, then were we wrong this entire time? And it's like, it just blows your mind. It's like opening doorways into other potential experiences. I don't know, I'm going off on a tangent here again. But I hope you enjoyed this one, because I definitely enjoyed this dream. Like I said, and it's just a very fascinating dream. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Hello, dear viewer or viewers. Welcome back to another Dream Entry ASMR. Okay, so I've written, I want to say, 4 or 5 so far. I wanted to try and get a few more in today, so I can get a backlog going. This one is titled Squid Game Playground, written circa November of 2021. This dream started off with the plot of the famous Squid Game show that's just recently released on Netflix. I remember seeing a few of the characters, like the main character and the old guy. I remember playing in this similar games. Things suddenly changed to where I would see kids playing the game. However, no one died. They would just seemingly disappear out of nowhere. I remember playing this particular game where me and the other players were doing puzzles on these chests. There were dozens of chests with little plaques of numbers on them. We had to notch our plaques with other plaques on the chest. The dream shifted to where I was wandering around this massive, vast playground-like area. I wandered through many slides and tubes-like hallways. I would end up these big arcade rooms that seemed to stretch on forever. I would keep shifting to other places and back to the Squid Game area. there was this one place in particular where I seemed to be in the shiny mirrored place in between the two main worlds. I would find myself being drawn to this stairwell that seemed like it had this shiny blue sheen. I gathered eventually gathered up the courage to go up the stairs. Suddenly they changed to this red color. I found myself talking to this voice in my head that seemed to guide me up the stairs. As the stairs changed colors, snakes came flying down the stairs in a predictable pattern, as well as other obstacles. As I made it to the top of the stairs, I found myself in this library-like room. I then met the old man who was speaking to me or you know, that one word that I had just said but forgot now. He then told me that all of this, including the game, was not real and that I could leave at any time. I ranted. I wanted anytime I want. I then followed his ritual and the dream soon ended. So, of course, you can figure out the theme on this one is that the Squid Game show at the time that came out, and it just kind of had a big influence on the dream at the time. But what's interesting to note is that the dream still has the very, nature of what dreams do is morph and emphasize different aspects or places in the dream. And about how I was in an arcade dream that stretched on forever, and this crazy stairwell at one point that I was going up that was just bonkers. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one. It wasn't super long, but it was fairly long. I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Hello, dear viewer or viewers. Welcome back again to another Dream Entry ASMR. This one might be the last one I do today. This one's titled 2 O'Clock Rush, written circa 12 or December of 2021. I woke in my room at my parents' house. As I checked the time, it read 2 o'clock. But as I looked out the window, it looked like it was dark out. I wasn't sure what time it was, but in a panic, I rushed to get dressed. Everything just seemed off. Everything seemed disorganized and out of place. The time didn't seem right. As I rummaged through trying to find a belt, I noticed I already had a belt, although it didn't seem like a belt I had ever worn. I didn't give it much thought, and in a daze, I finished getting dressed. I looked around the rest of the room, tried tidying things up. I went to pick up a glass of tea. The glass itself was green, and it resembled one of those old ball jars, although it had a handle. As I picked it up, tea splashed all over the table. It seemed that the bottom part of the glass had broken off. Sorry about that. Me, slightly annoyed and disgusted at this point, I told myself I would clean it up later. I looked out the window again, still dark and now pitch black out. I noticed the Christmas lights looking down at the ground. I started drifting off in thought, and as I daydreamed, I found myself being teleported to these places in my thoughts. Somehow I was drifting in and out of these places. First it was a backstage area where I heard the band members of Coldplay giving an interview, and next I was being teleported to these colorful, Christmassy, festive worlds. I had awoke from my gaze, finding myself staring down at this stream of red, or the stream of light coming from a window below me. It was a red crimson in color and partially illuminated the ground outside. I woke again in my room at my parents'. This time it was daylight out. Confusion starts to set in again. I tried to reach for my phone, and although I can feel it, but I can't see it. The dream started taking a turn toward confusion and delirium. Every time I would try to wake up, I would drift in and out of consciousness. I would find myself laying in bed awake, but I could tell at this point I was still in a dream. The dream did end finally. Okay, so this was a trippy dream because it just was one of them dreams where I could not wake up. It was almost like the dream was forcing me to stay into this dream world, or this perpetual state of wake and sleep. And I feel like at one point I did end up waking up into like that whole sleep paralysis episode, but I had a blanket over my head, and so I tried several times to get the blanket off my face in the dream, and I just couldn't. I was so frustrated that this blanket was still covering my view of the outside world, and I was so frustrated that I was trying to get this blanket off my face. I don't know if anybody has experienced this. I'm sure people have experienced this in some degree or some dream, but I couldn't get the blanket off my face, and I was so frustrated. And that was towards the end of the dream when I started waking up, and I started feeling like I was claustrophobic, and I was starting to feel like I was suffocating. But I had soon woke up at that point. But during the dream itself, it was trippy because it felt like I was actually awake, and it felt like it was a very real lucid dream. And I remember the theme, or the thing that I was most focused on was trying to see the time on my phone and trying to get ready. And it's weird because I wasn't working at the time, so I really had no place to be, but I still had that years of working before my accident. I had that ingrained into me to where I was freaking out for being late to work at a place I apparently worked at, but I wasn't at the time. I guess my dream self was like, oh, I gotta go to work, and I gotta be up at this certain time. and frantically getting ready, and then the crazy part where it's nighttime and then all of a sudden it's daytime, and it's like my mind was like playing tricks on me, like changing the time of day and shit, and then keep me from seeing my phone, seeing the time. And it's very interesting because I think it drives home the point of how unimportant time actually is, and how much of an illusion it is. And it's like we get so caught up in looking at the clocks on our phones, or looking at the time and trying to make sure. And I'm bad about this. Like I get so paranoid and so worked up sometimes about being on time, or being, at a certain place at a certain time. And I'm sure a lot of people are like this, or trying to stay on time in my life, and trying to do things that don't take up, try and plan things throughout the day at certain times of the day. And it's like when those things don't fall through, like for instance, me trying to keep up on my YouTube channel, or trying to keep up on my job, and trying to keep up on many other things in my life. And I just get upset because I can't do everything that I want to do in 24 hours of a day, but I'm not awake for 24 hours of the day. Like, I try to sleep at least 6 or 7 hours a day. And realistically, we're supposed to be sleeping at least 7 or 8 hours. And so, that gives us maybe 16 hours of the day. That gives us 16 hours for work. Whether we work 8, 10, or 12 hours, depending on how long you work. For me, I work 10 hours when I go to work. And I'll be there from, I don't know, I'll go in 6:30 in the evening, and I'll get back usually around 5 in the morning. And I don't go to sleep right away. I usually give myself at least a half an hour. I'll watch maybe an ASMR video, and it'll, try and get to sleep. So realistically, it's like close to 6 in the morning by the time I finally get to sleep. And I'll try and wake up usually around 1 in the afternoon. So that way it gives me at least some time to do things before I go to work. And I've been trying to get into this routine where I'll maybe go to the gym for like an hour before work. And I try to plan out enough time to get ready for work after I get back from the gym. And also give myself plenty of time to get to work. So I like to try to leave the house by around 5:30 in the afternoon. Even though I have to be at work by 6:30, I still have to leave an hour early. So that way it gives me plenty of time for traffic, dealing with traffic, rush hour and all that fun stuff. But that's the thing, though, is we live in such a crazy society that time seems so important, yet it's not, though. It's really, when we look back to the hunter-gatherer periods in human existence, people didn't have a certain time that they got up and went and hunted for food. I mean, yeah, there were certain things, like, if they were hungry, they would, go hunt for food at that point, or they get low on food, they would hunt for it. And maybe certain things like that. Or maybe there was like they could tell when the sun came up, and they'd have so many hours of sunlight, and then the sun would go down, and they'd go to sleep. But that was it. There were no clocks back then. There was no a way to really tell time other than looking outside and, hey, the sun's up. Let's go hunt for food. Or maybe after they got back hunting, maybe they kept up on their tools, and they made sure that things were good to go for the next day. Basic survival stuff, keeping up on like their huts, if they built like huts or something like that, or kept up on stuff like that. There's only so much you can do, though, and I need to catch back up on that show. But I used to watch that show alone, and people would go out, and they might still do it. They might still do new episodes, because my parents have been watching it. But people will go out, and they will go to like some of the most remote places on Earth, and there'll be a bunch of people that will go, but they will be spread out, like either by like mountain chains or like lakes and stuff, so they won't be able to like walk to each other, and they'll be several miles apart from each other. So they're pretty much on their own, and it's just interesting to watch because it's like in an extreme survival situation. You don't know how a person's going to act, and it's crazy because a lot of the people, especially on the first season, a lot of the people who are on there are hardened like war veterans and stuff that go home within like the first week or first few days of being out completely alone and in a survival situation. And it just goes to show that even the most hardened people can break down in extreme survival situations. This has nothing to do with time that I was originally talking about, but I'm going off on tangents a lot on these videos, and I really don't mean to, but yeah, I don't know. It's just something I found was interesting about the whole time situation, and about how it didn't actually come up. Clocks weren't a thing until maybe the Renaissance or something like that. I don't even know if they had clocks back then. I mean, I'm sure they probably had like certain ways to tell time at that time. But yeah, it's just funny to think that it's such a prominent thing in our society now, but back in like the hunter-gatherer days, it wasn't an important thing to think about at the time. It was more survival and making sure that you were gonna make it to the next day back then. But anyways, I hope you enjoy me rambling and talking about my dreams and stuff. I will try and see if I can get on Reddit again and see if I can get more people's stories on the channel and stuff. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.